Hi, Scott Orlin with Cinema-Magazin. Boy, you're in for a treat. A new movie coming out called Freaky. And I'm here with one of those freaks, Vince Vaughn. Vince, just navigate us through a little bit of your own relationship to this genre.
To the genre?
Yeah, of horror films.
Yeah, so for this movie, what was fun about it was kind of a blend of kind of hardcore slasher genre with some comedy. And Chris Landon, who I think is terrific, had done the Happy Death Day movies and some of the Paranormas, and I just found him to be, a really talented director and a great guy. So it was so fun to kind of give yourself over to someone that really has a command and loves this type of mashing of those two things, comedy and horror. And we just had a blast working on the movie. It was really fun to kind of go in between the kind of scarier stuff or horror stuff, but also some of the more lighter and comedic moments. It's a tough tone to pull off, but Chris has done it many times. He's very good at it.
I want to ask you, you are asked to do things in the first 10 minutes of the movie. I will let the audience discover it for themselves that most of us will never have to go through. Was there some sense of release for you, even though it was all pretend, to have to go that dark?
It's funny. I think as an actor, what's fun is you get to give yourself over to certain things. So, when you're doing it, you're kind of committed and not judging it. But it is fun to allow yourself to explore stuff, even on a simple level. I think all of us have lots of people inside of ourselves or sides of ourselves, but we kind of get comfortable presenting whatever we're most rewarded with. And so as an actor, it's kind of fun to connect to other sides that you probably don't pull up as often in your normal everyday life.
Well, that I will never look at a tennis racket the same way again. I will tell you that. But even putting on a mask, something like that, I don't know. Did it give you a different physicality? Did it make you act a different way?
That's a good question because I think I looked a lot at physicality for the part, obviously, for how one would carry himself as the butcher and the killer. And then, when Millie takes over and I am working from being her, the physicality had a lot to do with kind of, both of those transitions being both of those characters.
I want to say a lot of times actors talk about it in a way they're thieves, that they observe other people and steal certain things. Well, you've got a young daughter, and I'm
Yes.
wondering how much did she lend her actions or her movements to your discovering your inner Millie?
Yeah, I more kind of went with teenage girls that were of age. So I spent some time, definitely observing. I have nieces and their friends and other friends' kids, and just sort of watching and observing, and then finding a few things that kind of became instinctual. But yes, observing people of that age, and then getting more specific with it is a great starting point. And you kind of want to, kind of own that physicality in a way where you're not conscious of it.
I mean, obviously, in movies like Freaky Friday, which just kind of is an homage to, in a strange way, about the switching the bodies. And I'm wondering, what had you seen those type of movies? Did you want to go back? Did you want to kind of steer clear of those as references?
I didn't watch them at all, and I just wanted to build the characters out kind of honestly, like I would any character, including Millie. It was important for me to really be grounded as Millie, and really understand sort of her, situation in life. So even though we would play it for comedy, it's a very entertaining movie. I really was able to access some emotions and stuff because I was able to really kind of put myself in those shoes.
But speaking of being in those shoes, I mean, obviously, you have masculine tendencies. I mean, and there's nothing wrong with saying that. But playing Millie, you had to tap into these feminine qualities or tendencies. How did you affect that in hand movements, in the way she runs? I mean, obviously, the voice kind of stayed in your timbre, so to speak. But walk us through a little bit of the others.
Well, I think we all have both male and female tendencies, and so you just kind of drawing on stuff that's there. Um, and as far as the voice and stuff, I figured that the instrument was the same, my body wasn't changing, but the inner person, the person who was inside, was different. So I really just tried to, like you would with any character, understand their backstory. I talked to Catherine some, and so we were sort of on the same page. And then, to your point, which I think is astute, we kind of physicalized some of it in ways that someone who is not just a girl, but obviously someone who's not as assured of herself, kind of not confident in all situations, having a hard time connecting, I think, both with her family and with the social circumstances and being the age she is. I mean, in some ways, the movie's kind of a coming-of-age story of a girl who sort of finds her strength or her voice. And so it's really being in a place where you're at a starting point that feels right, and then you're going through each moment in a way that you believe the girl would be experiencing that.
You talked about coming of age. For many of us, the experience of just navigating through high school could be coming of age because there's so many influences that are coming, both positive and negative. What was high school like for you? Were you self-assured? Were you awkward? What was it like?
I think I was all of it, you know. I think, you know, you're shy, but I was an extrovert in some ways, but really I was shy. But I got along with people. I always had a sense of humor, could make fun of myself or, you know, others if I needed to. And, you know, I like people. So I did a bunch of different things. I was in theater, but I also played sports. And I got along with, you know, my peers really well. I got bored with school at a certain point. I wasn't as, you know, excited by all of the subjects. If it was something like English or a subject I was interested in, I really enjoyed it. But some of the subjects I wasn't as interested in. But I think, like most people, there's, you know, a lot of self-doubt. There's a lot of, you know, trying to figure out how you kind of navigate situations. And I think those experiences are ultimately good because, you know, even when you have times that are challenging, I think it teaches you humility. It teaches you empathy for people. And I think that, you know, your world is so small at that point. Like, when you're in high school, the population's so much less, your experiences are so much less, you have less perspective. And so everything is kind of heightened, you know. A lot of things, like in this movie, that feels like the end of the world and takes on a larger scope, things in high school do feel like the end of the world because you just don't have as much experience to realize that, you know, tomorrow's a new day and there's other chances.
But what I loved is even through this worst of times is you have your posse, your group of friends that that are there for you. Do you have a group of friends that have been with you through the years that have kind of helped you navigate?
I do. I still have a couple really close friends from high school and really close friends from when I first moved out to Hollywood. And old friends are the best because you have a history with each other. And, you know, yeah, I've definitely maintained some very close friendships.
I want to ask you as well, because as this movie kind of has two tones that it's following, but let's take the first tone, which is the slasher movie. What is it instinctually about us as an audience that we want to go experience it because we never want to see it in real life?
No, and that's the fun, it's imagination, but I think it's almost like comedy, it's the surprise. When you don't see it coming and it startles you, that's really what gets the result. And same with comedy, if you don't see the joke coming and you're surprised, it's the same, they kind of work well together. But it was so much fun to go do something so slasher, and this movie's a lot of fun. I mean, the way that Chris handles a lot of the slashing is just really fun entertainment. I mean, the movie gets a lot of oohs and ahs. You know, you're kind of in on it and having fun with it and taking it from the lens of someone who's presenting it as good entertainment.
But if I took you back to when you were 15 years old, would you go watch these movies? Is there a memory that sticks out with you?
You know what's funny is I would get pressured to watch them. You know, you'd be like with your friends and you'd be like, oh yeah, let's go watch it. But I was always scared, I hated it. And then it would bother me afterwards. I had a big imagination, so I remember like going to bed. Remember that movie Magic with the ventriloquist? I remember that movie really bothered me. Or The Exorcist, I couldn't even watch. It was, I would really get scared. But that was the fun of it. I would love to go, you know, at the time and get scared like that. But then afterwards, I would definitely have to deal with it for a few days.
What I have to compliment you on is your precision with physical comedy in this. Because obviously when you inhabit the body of Millie, you're called upon to do that. I mean, you don't want to be over the top because then an audience isn't going to believe it. So how did you choreograph it?
Yeah, I just think you don't want to be you don't want to be broad. I didn't want to be broad, and that's why I didn't really watch too much going into it. I really, the comedy would come from an overcommitment to the absurd. Always is a good way to create comedic moments, and it depends on the tone of the movie. So the movie in some ways had some larger, broader strokes, but I think what helps you get through it, because the world's so fantastical, you're accepting a body switch, and there's a lot of fun, things in the movie that the audience needs to go with. So my thought process was, the more you're grounded to this person, Millie, as a real person who's dealing with stuff in an authentic way, it kind of helps you go along with the stuff that's sort of fun in the movie. So I really just tried to, as you said, connect physically to what felt right, the specific backstory of who she was and what her stakes were in her life. And then I had terrific young actors to work with as my friends who were really likable, and we got to, just listen to them in the scenes and go in and kind of put yourself in those circumstances.
Well, Vince Vaughn, stay healthy and stay sane during this crazy time, and be a little freaky every so often. That's it.
Absolutely, Scott. It's always great to see you, man.
Scott Orlin, until next time.